What's up, guys? Today we're here with a brand new video. Like I said, we're going to be doing the downpipes today, the Catless Downpipes. You know, we got a car, we got the pipes. There ain't no cats in here, so that means we got Catless Downpipes. So we got the car set up on the lift here. You gotta raise it up. Well, first of all, we gotta start with the engine bay here. We gotta take off a few bolts in the engine bay, and then after that, we're gonna lift the car up and get to ratcheting under the car. So as you guys can see here, we got the two turbos. They're really small, to be honest. So maybe in the future, we might get some hybrid turbos set up in here. But as of right now, we're just gonna do the downpipes today. Everything is still really hot because we just put the car inside the shop. So we gotta wait until it cools down a little bit. And then once it cools down, we're gonna go ahead and start with removing these clamps here. These right here that hold the downpipe and the turbos together. So we're gonna undo both these clamps and then raise the car up. That's hot, that's hot. Then we're gonna go ahead and raise the car up, and we're gonna start to unbolt all the bolts that hold the downpipes with the bolts that you have to unscrew the bolts with the bolts that go to the bolts that hold the downpipe that are screwed onto nuts with the bolts and the nuts and the bolts. So as you guys can see over here, we have these T-screws or bolts. It's T30. You want to make sure that you get the right T size because these are very easily stripped. This one fits in here very nice and snug. This is a T30. Just gonna go ahead and loosen these up. Just like that. Do this side and the other side as well. That should be good right there. So once you got those bolts loose, you're actually gonna wanna take off the screw with this little spring. Make sure you don't lose that washer because you're gonna need it to reinstall everything. Just like that. Don't lose this piece either. Everything comes off as one. And just to keep everything organized, I got this little box and I'm segregating all my bolts just so we know where everything goes back once we start installing everything. What you're gonna wanna do next is grab a flathead screwdriver. It doesn't have to be this big. Now let's take off these V-bands. And so it might be a little bit tricky because after all this time they've been sitting on there, they kind of just clamp on there pretty tight. Put it in between where both of the sides join. And I didn't have a hammer, so I found this. And kind of just pry one side off. And then the next side, you kind of just want to also pry off. Just like that. And you're gonna have to do the same thing for this side. Get in that little corner and kind of hammer it off like that. And for now, you're just gonna want to put them to the side. You can leave them on here, just hanging on the turbos like that. After you take off the V-bands, what you're gonna want to do next is the 7/8 open-handed wrench. You're gonna want to take off the O2 sensors. Just get them loose. Get them loose. And now just twist them off. You got to make sure you don't twist them too much or else you will ruin the wire that goes inside. Just like that. Put that one off to the side as well as this one. Untwist it and put this one off to the side as well. So now what we're gonna do is we're gonna lift the car up and start trying to take those bolts off from underneath the car. All right, guys, so there's 3 bolts you're gonna wanna get off to get the downpipe off. 2 of these will have to be taken off from the bottom of the car, both on both sides. You see that heat shield bracket, you will not be able to get the bolt that's behind there off, so you have to go from the top of the car. And then other than that, you just need to get that one bolt over there off as well as that bolt over there off. So we already broke this one bolt off, so let me just continue to unscrew it. So as you can see, we got one of the bolts out from this side. We're actually just gonna go to this downpipe now because the 2 bolts are very easily accessible. well, not too easily accessible, but they're a lot easier than this side. This swivel is pretty This swivel is pretty bad too. It's really loose, so we might have to get a new one before we can do that side. So let's go ahead and get down with this downpipe. So basically on this 3/8 ratchet, I just have 3 extensions, and at the end we have a 12mm with a swivel socket, and that makes it a lot easier for you to get down to the bolts. Second one. All right, so we have 3 out of the 4 bolts that we need to get down from over here. This last bolt is kind of giving us an issue because every time I try to put in this really long extension with the swivel, it bends before I can even put it on the bolt. So we're gonna keep trying over here. If we get to it, we'll start recording and we'll let you guys know. But as soon as we get that bolt off, we just have to drop the car and get the last 2 bolts up from the top of the engine bay. So we were able to get the last bolt off. I don't know why Audi would put these kind of bolts, but they're super easy to strip. I don't know if they're aluminum, they feel aluminum, but what we found was best to getting that last bolt off from the bottom. You get 3 extensions and you do not put the swivel on. You just put a long 12mm socket on the end and have your buddy or whoever you're working with hold the mid pipe a little bit to the side. That way you could just go in there without the swivel and put it directly onto the bolt itself. Let me show you guys. Your buddy's gonna be holding it right here. He's gonna pull it back a little bit, and that will give you a little bit more room just to get your socket on there, and you'll get the bolt off no problem. So from the bottom side of things, we got all 4 bolts off, which was actually pretty simple. It took us no more than 10 minutes, I'd say. Now we're gonna lower the car, get in the engine bay, and unscrew the rest of the 2 bolts that we have up there. So we lowered the car. We're gonna open the hood here. As you can see, the downpipes are moving around fairly easily. The last 2 bolts that we're gonna have to get are a little bit tricky from up here. So the bolt that you're gonna wanna get is down there. It's on the underside of the downpipe itself. So that one shouldn't be too tricky to get. So for the bolt on the passenger side, since it's not too hard to get to, you're still gonna wanna use your 3 long extensions on your 3/8 ratchet, as well as a longer 12mm. And the trick to this is, so you don't have to use a swivel, you don't put the actual socket on all the way. You kind of put it on halfway. That way it could still move around a little bit. This one is really simple to get to. It's basically just getting it on the bolt tight so you don't strip it and cracking it loose. There we go. And you just have to unscrew it. The reason why you have to get these 2 bolts from the top of the engine bay is because they reverse the bolt. So the other ones, the nut is on the bottom side of the car, but for these 2 bolts specifically, the nut is on the top. Just like that. Now that you have all your bolts out, all you're gonna have to do is go ahead and pull your downpipe out. Just like that. So to get this last nut off was get a 1/4" ratchet with a small 12mm socket, and the last screw is actually over here. The last screw, as you could actually see, is that one right there. So I was wrong with saying that the nut is reversed. The nut is still on the bottom, so take your ratchet and go underneath the downpipe. And this one is super tricky, guys, because you don't have a lot of room to give you the power to get it loose. But as soon as you get it loose, it should go off fairly easily. What I did is I kind of placed my elbow against the downpipe like that, which gave me that much extra room just to use my fingers for leverage and get that bolt cracked off. It is a little bit of a struggle down here, guys, but once you get the bolt going, it comes off fairly easily. Remember, you want to get it just loose to the point where you could come back with your hands and unscrew it just so you don't lose that bolt. Oh, I lost it. It's in there somewhere. So if you're like me and you just lost the bolt after I just told you don't lose the bolt, we'll find it later, it's no big deal. You have all the bolts off? And now you can just take the second downpipe off. Here's how it looks. Pretty big and heavy compared to the ones I will be installing. These are the CTS Turbo Catless Downpipes, which they call their test pipes. They don't come like this. They just come with the bare metal, but I did go ahead and buy some heat shield wrap off Amazon and wrap the downpipe, just so it keeps all the heat in the downpipe and doesn't disperse it back into the engine bay, so we get maximum power. So we get maximum power out of these. So as you guys can see, we have both downpipes removed. I'm kind of scrapping the whole decatted downpipe idea. I'm actually just going to go ahead and use these Bluetooth downpipes. They actually make a ton more power than decatted downpipes, so Bluetooth it is. So like I mentioned before, guys, these are CTS Turbo decatted downpipes, which is their test pipes. One major thing is do not forget to put on your gasket. This is a very important thing when installing downpipes. So basically just go ahead and put your gasket on that one stud that we left behind, just like that. Make sure that the bolt holes line up. What I want to do now is actually put the downpipe over that one stud that is left over. Just like that. So now the easier way to do this is actually you're going to take your stud and put it from the bottom of the downpipe so we can screw everything in from the top. So if I just... Alright guys, so we were able to get one aftermarket downpipe here installed. The only thing that was giving us problems was that bolt all the way in the back. It took a little bit of time, but we got it. It is getting pretty late, so I'm going to leave the second downpipe for tomorrow. As soon as we get that in, I actually also took out the ECU. So I'm going to ship this out tomorrow to VF Engineering to get their stage 2 tune on this. With my intake and the CTS Turbo downpipes, will probably put us to around 500 all-wheel horsepower, and I think it's 550 all-wheel torque. So I'm super excited about that. I can't wait to feel how much faster it's going to be. I'm going to pick up with you guys tomorrow installing the second downpipe, and as soon as I get the ECU tune, we're going to install it and we'll take it for a drive. I'll see you guys in the next video. Or I'll see you guys tomorrow. What's up guys, it is now the next day. I came straight after work down here to the compound so we could continue working on the Audi RS5. Yesterday we were able to get that downpipe fully installed. Today I'm going to be installing the second downpipe. What I did right when I got here is I just set this downpipe in place and I actually put that first bolt in. I didn't tighten it down yet because I want to show you guys something, but the other bolts are right there and down there. So let me get those bolts in there. I'm going to hand tighten them for now, and then I'm going to show you guys what you have to do next. So I have the two other bolts that I have to install. I'm going to go ahead and put them into the bolt holes, thread them hand tight, and then I'll show you guys up close what you have to do next. Alright guys, as you can see I have all three bolts inserted. There's 1, 2, the last one is over there. So now the back side of the turbo, there's this little divot, and as well as on the downpipe side there is this divot right there. As you can see, is you have to line those two divots up, and you know you did that when the downpipe and the back side of the turbo sits flush like that. So now all you have to do is reinsert your clamp here, tighten it down, and then tighten all those bolts down, put in your O2 sensor, and your install should be done. So as you can see, I have the downpipe and the back side of the turbo lined up. Now you're going to want to put on your clamp. This is the one round. Alrighty, so once you got those nice and tight, you can see the clamp is going all the way around. It's nice and tight. Now all you guys have to do is tighten those bolts down there, which could be a little bit tricky. In my opinion, honestly, taking the bolts out was a lot easier than putting these back in. It's because on the OEM downpipe, the bolts are actually pressed into this metal flange so they don't move around or anything. But the bolts that you get with the kit, they're just a bolt and a nut. So you have to hold down both sides in order to crank it down and make it tight. Overall, everything should be looking like this. I really like how the heat wrap looks on the downpipes. Although it's going to be covered, I really do like the aesthetic of it. The only thing I wish I had done is actually paint the two flanges with a high temperature heat retaining black color. There's stuff called Cerakote. I think it would have made it look a little bit better, but honestly, you wouldn't be able to even see it. So that looks pretty good in my opinion. I'm gonna go ahead and tighten the O2 sensors down, and the install on the CTS Turbo Catless Downpipes, or their test pipes, should be completed. So there you go, guys. The install on the Catless Downpipes by CTS Turbo are fully installed. Everything is tightened down to 100%. All we have left now is to wait for the ECU to come back from VF Engineering down in California. I did ship it out a couple days ago, and it said that it was supposed to arrive on Thursday to VF Engineering. Then it takes them about 2 to 3 days to actually crack the ECU and tune it. And then after that, they ship it back to you. So I'm assuming the whole process is probably gonna take about a week or two. So once they ship that ECU back to us, we're gonna go ahead, come back here, install the ECU, plug everything up, and we're actually, for the first time, gonna get a first start of this car. And since it's been sitting in this garage, it is gonna be a cold start, which I'm super happy about, because I can't wait to hear how these downpipes make this car sound. I hope that it whistles a lot since it's catless. I hope that the turbos, you could actually hear them whistle out the exhaust. I think that's just gonna make it sound really amazing. So yeah, guys, once I get the ECU back in about a week or so, I'm gonna pick up this video. For me, it's gonna take a little bit of time. I'm gonna be super anxious. I'm not gonna be able to sleep at night. But for you guys and the power of editing, the ECU is actually right over here. Well, this is the box, but the ECU is actually in here. I actually got it back today from VF Engineering, and it took quite a bit, to be honest. It took a whole month. So we got the ECU here, guys. We're gonna go ahead and flip it back into its original spot. The ECU is actually only held on by like these little plastic tabs, so all you have to do is put in there and just clip it in like that. And all you have to do left is install all these prongs back into the original color. So we have black, green, purple, blue, and the last one. It's as simple as pushing it in. Just like that. All right, guys, so we got the battery all plugged in. So I'm gonna start the car, and over here a cold start with the downpipes and the tune.
Damn,